Bolivia's de facto government has fired its economy minister for opposing the signing of a decree that contemplates the privatization of a public company. The World Health Organization has announced a deal with its partners to make 120 million rapid COVID-19 tests available to low and middle income countries. Several countries are calling for talks and a ceasefire between Azerbaijan and Armenia as tensions grow between the two neighbors. From the headquarters of TeleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South, and I'm Katrina Goss. We begin in Bolivia, where the de facto government has fired Economy Minister Oscar Ortiz for opposing the signing of a decree that contemplates the privatization of a public company. Ortiz stressed that contrary to reports, he had not resigned from his post, but had been pushed out. He clarified that his dismissal was due to a disagreement with Government Minister Arturo Murillo. The move demonstrates the splits within the de facto government as the general elections approach. Ortiz became the second Bolivian official ousted from his post due to differences with Murillo after Attorney General José María Cabrera was dismissed after questioning the privatization of an electricity company.
I am aware that I have had deep difference with some government authorities on different public administration measures. I will always put my principles above any interests, no matter how important the position, such as that I currently hold. Nothing justifies going against the principles and ethics that have always guided my actions.
And shortly after the dismissal of the de facto Minister of Economy, de facto Labour Minister Oscar Mercado confirmed his resignation in a statement. Mercado did not offer any details on what led to his resignation from the post he has held since December 2019. The crisis within the de facto government of Bolivia, headed by Janine Áñez, has intensified with the departure of 3 members of her cabinet in the space of a week. And Bolivian indigenous organizations and trade unions are continuing their work ahead of next month's general elections. We have more in the following report.
The Aymara women of the highlands of La Paz are actively participating in the electoral campaign that will culminate in national elections on October 18th.
We want to recover our rights for our children. I, for example, am old. I do this for our children.
They have denounced last November's coup and were part of mobilizations that put a stop to the de facto government's desire of indefinitely postponing the elections.
She is mortgaging our future. Who is going to pay for her debts? Our children? Our grandchildren?
The Aymara women of the 20 provinces of La Paz are represented by the Bartolina Sisa Federation of Campesino Women. They say this organization has reminded them of the courage their ancestors had to confront Spanish colonialism at the dawn of the War for Independence 200 years ago.
As social organizations, as Bolivians, we are united, together as a people. We are going to defend the process of change on October 18.
These and other social organizations were an integral part of the administration of ousted President Evo Morales. They say they continue to actively participate in that process, with candidates nominated by the campesino communities for the Legislative Assembly.
We have as candidates pollera-wearing women and a Tupac Katari candidate. We choose them from our social organizations.
For more than a decade, the movement towards socialism and Evo Morales considered campesinos and workers a permanent consultation body for their policies. This same movement has remained the front runner in all opinion polls ahead of the October elections.
Brazil's Workers' Party has launched its campaign ahead of municipal elections in November. Party President Gleisi Hoffmann stressed this is the moment of truth, and the party had the challenge of returning hope to the people to prove that rebuilding Brazil is possible while putting food on people's tables. She recalled that the party continues to suffer attacks ever since the parliamentary and judicial coup against President Dilma Rousseff, followed by the persecution of former President Luis Ignacio Lula da Silva. But she stressed that the PT is stronger now with a greater number of candidates as it heads for this electoral battle. Latin American women's and feminist groups continue their struggle for the right to legal and safe abortion. To mark September 28th, which is International Safe Abortion Day, and celebrated as a day of action for decriminalization of abortion in Latin America and the Caribbean, different organizations and social movements are advocating the passing of laws in favor of the full rights of women to terminate an unwanted pregnancy. It must be recalled that abortion remains illegal in many countries across the world, costing millions of lives. According to the World Health Organization, each year between 4.7% and 13.2% of maternal deaths can be attributed to unsafe abortion. In Colombia, a new massacre was reported in the central department of Cundinamarca. According to reports, the latest attack claimed the lives of 3 young people in the municipality of Soacha. Police stated that the crime occurred on Thursday, September 24th, but was reported this Sunday. According to the authorities, armed individuals who have not yet been identified broke into the building where the victims were and shot them dead. The police state that they believe drug trafficking to be the motive for the crime. However, this version of events has been rejected by local residents who've denounced the lack of action on the part of President Ivan Duque to stop the ongoing violence in the country. This is the 64th massacre registered in Colombia this year. The World Health Organization has announced a deal with its partners to make 120 million rapid COVID-19 tests available to low and middle income countries.
Last week, we reached an important milestone in which WHO issued the first emergency use listing for a quality antigen-based rapid diagnostic test, and we expect other rapid tests to follow. Today, I have good news. I'm pleased to announce that thanks to an agreement between WHO and partners here today and others, a substantial proportion of these rapid tests, 120 million, will be made available to low and middle income countries. These tests provide reliable results in approximately 15 to 30 minutes, rather than hours or days at a lower price with less sophisticated equipment. This will enable the expansion of testing, particularly in hard-to-reach areas that do not have lab facilities or enough trained health workers to carry out PCR tests. This is a vital addition to their testing capacity and especially important in areas of high transmission.
8. US paper The New York Times has published details of President Donald Trump's tax returns, casting doubt over the self-made billionaire image that he's promoted, while revealing that he's paid no income taxes at all in 10 of the previous 15 years. The New York Times obtained tax records together with related financial documents and legal filings extending over more than 2 decades on President Trump and his businesses, including detailed information from his first 2 years in office. Trump has also promoted himself as a successful businessman who takes in hundreds of millions of dollars a year. However, his tax records reveal heavy losses that he aggressively employed to avoid paying taxes. Also hanging over the president is a decade-long audit battle with the Internal Revenue Service over the legitimacy of a $72.9 million tax refund that he claimed and received after declaring huge losses. Trump is the only president in modern times not to make his tax filings public, and the revelations are likely to have repercussions in the lead up to the November election. The California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection informed that over 3.6 million acres of land have been burnt by wildfires so far this year, while 26 people have died and over 7,000 structures have been damaged or destroyed. The state's biggest ever fire, the August Complex, has been active for 41 days and grown to cover over 800,000 acres with 43% containment. The fire burned mainly through forest land, damaging or destroying 56 structures and causing thousands of evacuations. Hot, dry and smoky air descended on the Bay Area over the weekend, and red flag warnings are in effect until Monday night in the North Bay and East Bay, according to the National Weather Service forecast. Pope Francis announced that he will not receive US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, who will visit Italy next week, because the move could influence the US election campaign. Although the Pope received Pompeo at the Vatican in October 2019, His Holiness assured that on this occasion he would not meet with political personalities amid electoral campaigns to avoid any kind of manipulation. According to experts, relations between the Vatican and the United States have experienced an extraordinary hardening in recent days. The Pope's refusal came after Washington criticized the renewal of an agreement between China and the Vatican regarding the appointment of Chinese Catholic bishops. Pompeo will visit Italy on September 29th to 30th to attend a symposium on the advancement and defense of religious freedom organized by the US Embassy in the European country. This Monday, Spain's Supreme Court upheld a ruling barring Catalonia's regional president, Joaquim Torra, from public office for a period of 18 months on civil disobedience charges. A panel of judges unanimously agreed to confirm the decision of a Barcelona-based lower court issued in December last year, which also included a fine of €30,000. The case against Torra was presented following his alleged refusal to take down yellow ribbons and other signs of support for jailed Catalan separatists on public buildings ahead of the April 2019 general election. The court claimed that Torra's actions were civil disobedience, taking into account a previous order from the Electoral Commission in Madrid that had stated all partisan symbols must be removed from public institutions in the lead-up to the elections. Torra is expected to be replaced in office by his deputy, who also represents a separatist party, until a new election is held in the region. Police in Catalonia made preparations for possible demonstrations in the wake of the ruling. And Joaquim Torra condemned the Supreme Court ruling to ban him from public office for a period of 18 months.
I don't abandon the cause, and I don't give up, and even less do I accept this sentence that wants to overthrow Catalonia's government. Doing it would mean to accept that repression against the fair cause of Catalonia's independence is accepted by all of us. I will take freedom of expression and our cause for independence to Europe, and we will win. We want independence, we want self-determination, but above all, we want a quality democracy for our country. We will have the chance to move in this direction in elections that will be held in a few months. There has to be a turning point. There has to be a new vote and a new mandate that confirms the referendum of the 1st of October.
Russian President Vladimir Putin met his counterpart from Kyrgyzstan, Sooronbay Jeenbekov, on Monday, prior to upcoming parliamentary elections set to take place this weekend. During the Sochi meeting, Jeenbekov told the Russian president that there were different forces working against stability and development in Kyrgyzstan. Putin said that Russia would never interfere in the internal affairs of its neighbours or other countries, but noted that Russia always supports efforts aimed at stabilization. He also told his counterpart that Russia would provide economic support to the country.
A few days before parliamentary election, there are different forces who are against stability and development of our country. They interfere in the strategic partnership. Of course, we won't let them do it. There's no way they do it. You know that we never interfere in internal affairs of our neighbors or other countries, but we always support efforts aiming at stabilization of the situation, at meaningful dialogue between all political forces. We always support the current government in its willingness to stabilize the situation. We will behave this way with Kyrgyzstan, in particular, providing economic support.
The 27 new COVID-19 cases detected from September 2nd to date in Vietnam are Vietnamese citizens who were repatriated from other countries, demonstrating that health authorities have successfully controlled the epidemiological situation in the country. This Monday also marks 25 days with no COVID-19 related fatalities, with the death toll remaining at 35. The commission in charge of containing the pandemic confirmed that 999 people have recovered from the novel coronavirus, representing more than 93% of confirmed cases. That figure could increase in the coming days, as among those still hospitalized, 26 have tested negative in 2 or 3 PCR tests to detect the continued presence of the virus. Tensions are escalating between Azerbaijan and Armenia, with battles over the disputed region of Nagorno-Karabakh continuing overnight. There are international calls for calm after the heaviest fighting between the two sides in years. On Monday, Azerbaijani authorities denounced the attacks of the Armenian army against the city of Terter and promised retaliatory measures. Meanwhile, the Armenian Ministry of Defense said significant successes were achieved in the attacks that continued on Sunday night in the conflict zone of the disputed region of Nagorno-Karabakh. The clashes between the two former Soviet republics, which fought a war in the 1990s, were the latest flare-up of a long-running conflict over the breakaway region that's located inside Azerbaijan but is run by ethnic Armenians. Both sides have reported civilian casualties as the danger of a new war heightens. And this Monday, China called for Armenia and Azerbaijan to act calmly and with restraint following the fighting between the two countries.
We believe that it is in the interest of all the parties, including Armenia and Azerbaijan, to maintain the regional peace and stability. We hope the parties involved can act with calmness and restraint and take the measures to avoid further escalation of the tension. We hope they can dissolve contradictions and differences through dialogues.
Likewise, this Monday, Iran called for an end to the fighting between Armenia and Azerbaijan and said it was ready to facilitate talks and a ceasefire between its two neighbors.
The situation in the region does not support this violence. We immediately told our friends in Azerbaijan and Armenia to end this conflict as soon as possible and start talks for the better of the region. We believe that an immediate ceasefire, the cessation of hostilities and the opening of bilateral talks is the only final solution to this issue. Iran's policy has not changed.
The European Union also urged a halt to the fighting between Armenia and Azerbaijan and a return to the negotiating table.
Indeed, we hope and we urge everyone to do everything they can in order to prevent an all-out war from breaking out, because this is the last thing the region needs. The escalation around Nagorno-Karabakh is very worrying because it carries the risk of serious escalation and serious consequences for the regional stability, and that's why the EU has officially called on both sides to refrain from violence, to stop immediately the armed confrontations. We called for an immediate ceasefire, cessation of hostilities, de-escalation, and strict observance of the ceasefire.
And Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan renewed his country's support for Azerbaijan over the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict this Monday.
I once again condemn Armenia, who yesterday attacked Azerbaijani soil. Turkey will continue to stand by its friend and brethren Azerbaijan, by all means and with all its heart. It is time to bring an end to the regional crisis that started with the Nagorno-Karabakh occupation. The region will once again attain peace and calm with Armenia's immediate withdrawal from the Azerbaijani land it has occupied.
Humanitarian organizations are warning that flooding caused by torrential rains in South Sudan could lead to a humanitarian crisis. According to the United Nations World Food Programme, more than 700,000 people across South Sudan have been affected by flooding since June. The organization is struggling to provide food assistance to 500,000 people in the affected areas. A spokesman for the UN agency warned that donor countries are finding it difficult to help South Sudan because of the coronavirus pandemic.
Basically, we need more donor support because we were already under pressure in South Sudan because of conflict and because of the high levels of displacement. And now with the added burden from flooding, donors need to step forward. But donors themselves, of course, are struggling in their own countries with the pandemic COVID-19. So it's difficult for them to give at this very difficult time. There have always been floods in South Sudan, but certainly in the last 20 years, because of climate change, we have seen the flooding increase. What's been happening is that there is flooding every year, but the flooding is increasing, so the land is not drying out, even during the dry season in many places. So when the floods come again, the impact is even greater, and there's more suffering than before.
Speaking at a conference on the national response to COVID-19 on Monday, Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta announced the extension of a nationwide curfew for another 60 days due to the steady spike in novel coronavirus cases. Kenyan health authorities have reported more than 38,000 coronavirus cases and 700 related deaths since the beginning of the epidemic in the country.
One, that the nationwide curfew enforced throughout the territory of the Republic of Kenya is extended for a further 60 days. Two, that the commencement time for the nationwide curfew is varied from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Therefore, effective tomorrow, Tuesday, the 29th of September 2020, the nationwide dusk to dawn curfew will run from 11 o'clock at night to 4 o'clock in the morning.
Afghanistan's top negotiator in talks with the Taliban arrived in Pakistan's capital on Monday for a 3-day trip during which he will meet with the country's Prime Minister and other government officials. Abdullah, who leads the Afghan High Council for National Reconciliation, was received by top Pakistani government officials on arriving in Islamabad. The council represents the Afghan government in the historic peace negotiations with the Taliban, which began in Qatar on September 12th. The talks represent the most serious effort yet at ending decades of war in Afghanistan following the 2001 US-led invasion. And we've come to the end of this news brief, but remember you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. For TeleSUR English, I'm Katrina Goss. Thank you for watching.